Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers,
Hello, how do you do? We are the boys and girls in white and blue, and we're back for another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN soccer show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Zachary Adam Eisenheimer.
Why, hello, I'm Harjeet Johal. How's it going?
It's going very well. Thank you for finding the time in your busy schedule to join us this week for more than a 2 minutes.
I do.
Yes.
You know how I do.
Well, I mean, you are a very busy woman at the moment because
Yes.
we'll touch on this in part 4, but you are flying out tonight down to the She Believes Cup. So busy time for her.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
And a particularly busy time with everything that we have to talk about. Yeah, we're going to have a packed show for this episode, as always. Every single week's packed, really. Even when I say it's going to be a short show, it still comes in at 2 hours. But we're going to talk Whitecaps. We're going to talk Major League Soccer. We're going to talk Canadian soccer. And there has been a lot of talking points. This is also our love show, because it's going to drop on or about Valentine's Day. Most of you will get this on Valentine's Day. So it's going to be a show all about love, our love of football. And I've been a little bit obsessed this last couple of days with Chat GPT. Are you guys familiar with that?
Is that the thing where you can talk to like people from the past or whatever?
No.
That's a Ouija board.
No. There's a thing where you can talk to people and like.
I did hear about that, and they're talking to Hitler and all sorts.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
They're talking to some horrible people from ancient history and stuff, or history.
Whoa.
What is this thing you're on, Michael?
Right. Well, Chat GPT, in short, it's artificial intelligence. You can basically type in what you want the AI to come up with. So people have been writing screenplays, radio shows, jokes. Students are obviously using it to cheat in essays. And I used it to write love poetry, as you do.
For your wife, of course.
Haven't got around to her yet. I did 5 poems. We'll talk about some of them in a later part. But I want to just kick things off just now with a love poem for the sport of football, all written by artificial intelligence. So I had nothing to do with this. And I had to type in, give me a love poem about soccer. Because when I did football, it was going on about touchdowns and stuff. And we all know the Superb Owl was on yesterday, so we don't want to talk about that. So this is the poem.
This is Superb Owl?
The Superb Owl. It was Snowy versus Barn.
My wife shared a meme yesterday that said, you know what a Super Bowl is to me? A toilet that cleans itself. That's a Super Bowl.
That would be a Super Bowl. Yes. I'm
actually,
the person here that does all that, I would be very much...
I was hanging out with a group of people and the game was on, but we were playing other games and doing other things. But my moment of the afternoon, Michael, proud father moment of the afternoon, is when my son messaged me and said, "Hey Dad, I'm watching Bundesliga right now. This is the game I'm watching." "Oh, that game's done. This is the game I'm watching." I was just like, that's my boy.
Yeah. I was watching World Seniors Darts.
Seniors,
yeah, for over 50s. There's still hope that I can make this. I'm going to find a sport yet that I can do.
Do you fancy Michael the darts hard?
Yeah, he loves the darts. He's Scottish. He's always going on about the darts. Oh, I gotta go watch the darts.
But do you
Well,
think
yeah.
you think he could play? Do you think he could do it?
How hard could it be? You just throw stuff at the wall.
Have you tried hard? It's very hard.
I've got my dartboard set up here. We'll get
They
it's
won't
all
let
right.
me use any sharp objects, Zach, so
No,
I'm not
that's
allowed
true.
to do the darts. You guys know how dangerous that could be for other people.
Yes. Well, let's have an AFTN darts night. We'll see how that goes. I've got it set up in the spare room here. Let me just get to my love poem. That's all I wanted to
Sorry.
get to here. We've
Sorry,
been
Michael.
completely derailed already. So here's
You
my
and
love
your AI.
poem about soccer. And I've had a few women in my time over here ask me to read poetry to them. So, I mean, we could get a whole new listenership here. That's actually a true story. I went to Blockbuster once. Caitlin was outside with the dog, and the girl at the checkout was like, "Oh, I could listen to your accent all day. Would you like to read me poetry?" And I'm looking at Caitlin through the window, and I'm like, "Yeah, I've got to get back to my sister that's outside."
Michael, no.
If you're listening upstairs, Caitlin, who will also be on the show this episode, probably killing me. But here is our love poem. O soccer, my love, my heart's true desire, your grace and beauty set my soul on fire. With every dribble, every touch, every goal, you fill me with joy that can never grow old. Your beauty lies in the simple game you play, where every player finds their own unique way. And every time the ball hits the back of the net, I feel my heart soar with each victory I bet. Your elegance in the way the players move, with grace and precision in their steps so smooth. And every time the fans break out in cheer, I know that this game is so much more than mere. So here's to you, soccer, my love for you will always last. For you bring me joy and memories that will forever last. And I'll always be there to support and cheer you on. For you are my heart's sport, and my love for you will always be strong.
Is it over yet?
It's over. That was all written by computer, artificial intelligence. I think we could get that to actually do the show one week, and we won't even need to do it.
So you're gonna say, "Hey, AI, do a 3-hour football."
Do a 3-hour football podcast on Whitecaps, MLS, and Canadian Premier League. But we'll try it. We'll see.
That would
see
be
what
funny.
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the stuff we hear covering the game here is a bit robotic, so I mean, I'm pretty sure it'll be good. But yeah, we're going to fluctuate between joy and sadness on the show this week. On the whole, it's mostly a show about love, but we do have to touch on some sad aspects as well from the game, from around the world. And one of them, just a little update on what we were talking about to kick off the show last week, and that is the horrific scenes in Turkey and Syria after the earthquake. Reports today seem to indicate that over 36,000 already confirmed dead from it. And obviously they need all the help they can get, monetary, people on the ground, everything like that. Two of the Canadian national team players that are over in Turkey just now, Sam Adekugbe and Atiba Hutchison, spoke out this week trying to raise awareness for the efforts that were going on and to try and get funds in. I want to play a little bit of audio from the media call that they had this week just now. Here's Sam and Atiba.
Yeah, it's a difficult time here in Turkey because you know these people so well and what they have given to to me and what they've done for like my family, and just to see the state of what the country is going through right now, and how much hurt and just the tragedy is. It's hard to see, and for myself, learning firsthand from what Sam went through. I got a call from him in the middle of the night when everything happened, and kind of just, he showed me how it was, and I was just completely shocked. So yeah, I think I'll let Sam take over with, go more into depth with it, but just hard for me to hear of it, and just to see and to know what he went through was hard for me to see, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we had a game in the evening, and then a couple of my teammates just came over after the game because, usually you can't sleep because of, like, the adrenaline rush and stuff, and just hung out until the later hours of the night. And then when they left, I started cleaning up my place, and then when I sat down, I just, started shaking, thinking I was having, like, a panic attack. And then it just kept, like, the shakes kind of getting more and more severe, and then I started hearing, like, just, like, getting the chaos in my kitchen, plates and, like, cups and everything flying off, and then the table falling over, the TV falling over. I had a candle on my table, the candle fell over, and that's when I kind of started to realize what was going on. And I just quickly tried to, like, find the candle because everything was kind of a big mess in my living room. I just to quickly, like, blow it out so obviously didn't start a fire. And then when I came outside, it was kind of just like lightning and freezing rain, and, like, the road was, like, split, and everyone was outside just kind of yelling. And then when everything settled down, I went to kind of check my house again, and obviously walked through it, seeing kind of, like, the mess it was. And then I walked through, then I drove into the city, and that's where I kind of really saw kind of, like, like the devastating, like, effects of what happened. As I drove, it's about a 20-minute drive from my house to the training ground, and then it just felt like a movie. Just you seeing, like, collapsed buildings, fires, people yelling, people crying. You're seeing just people digging through rubble. Just broken pieces of houses. Just things you never really expect. And as I started driving closer towards the training ground, it's more towards the center of the city. You just started seeing kind of, like, even worse. Roads split, like, bridges broken, 12-story, like, high rises just completely collapsed. And you're seeing just families, like, looking for loved ones, parents looking for their kids looking for their parents, and it was just something, like, unfathomable, something you never really expect, and it was just crazy. And I got to the training ground, and people are missing, people are still missing, and there's no internet service. Obviously people don't have their belongings. It happened in the later hours of the night, so it's has anything, and it was just hard to comprehend. And then throughout the day, you're just trying to help people and look for your teammates and things like that. And then you start to see just even more so how devastating it is. You're like looking through rubble, trying to find your teammates. You're trying to yell for them in, like, like darkened spaces of apartments that are used to be standing. And it's just, something you never find yourself doing. And, people coming back with broken bones, and people still missing to this day. And I don't know, it's just something you can't, like, really explain.
So, yeah, I think on top of everything that, we spoke about, what Sam was speaking about, what's important for us, especially me being on this call with everybody, is just to get the message out to, everybody in Canada of what Sam and I are trying to do in terms of, getting help and getting donations. I think it's really important for the people that are in need of that. There's a lot of people that are still under the rubble. I think around 150,000 is the last number that we heard. So people are just really in bad conditions right now, and it's really cold here. So just making it through the day and in the night, it's extremely difficult, and just doing whatever we can to get the message to Canadians. We've partnered with Red Cross. There's a link, but it is through Red Cross, and if any way that anybody can help out that way would be very helpful. And then just on the grounds here in Turkey, there's a campaign called AHBAP. It's AHBAP. they're a company that you know is very trustworthy, and they can help out as well.
Sam Arakubi and Atiba Hutchison there, just chatting about the horrific scenes in Turkey, and we should always remember it does affect Syria as well. It isn't just Turkey. That's just part of the audio that Sam and Atiba had. I just wanted to get the start and the end of it, the most pertinent stuff, just about Sam's experiences and just the appeal efforts as well. There was a lot of stuff covered on the call. You can watch a lot of the call on One Soccer's YouTube channel as well. Sam, just harrowing stuff, just talking about their kit man's dead. A lot of the kitchen staff, their families have been killed or badly affected and hurt in it. Sam's staying with Atiba. He just left with 3 cases on his dog, and then there was a private flight to Istanbul. It's just horrible stuff. Just listening to Sam talking about that. Just to reiterate what Atiba said there, the appeal that they're trying to raise money, it's redcross.ca/Turkey Syria appeal, and it's Turkey TurkeySyriaAPPEAL, Turkey Syria appeal /Atiba and Sam. You can also donate via ABAP, AHBAP, as Atiba was talking about there. And it just horrible stuff, Zach. And I mean, watching the video of it as well, Sam just seemed in so much shock from it, understandably, and it's so tough for them just to really speak about it. But glad that they're all safe, but hopefully a lot of funds can go their way with them putting that appeal out.
Yeah, I mean, Sam's only been there a few years, and you can tell how attached he is. Atiba, that's been his home for so long now, it feels like, it's heartbreaking. You continue to see the videos of rescues and rescue attempts and loss of life, and it's so tragic. So hopefully funds can be raised to help with this. And we see, governments around the world also, expressing their commitment to helping these countries recover. And
I mean, it's crazy stuff just watching those scenes. And from a football point of view, Sam's sporting director at Hatsapur is still missing, as is Christian Atsu. We talked about all the misinformation last week. Checking this afternoon, just before we're recording this on Monday afternoon, they've got to the building of his that collapsed, and they actually rescued 7 people alive from that building today, which a week on is just absolutely incredible. But time is running out because it's getting colder. A lot of the rescue crews are going away, so just got to keep fingers crossed for that. And Sam and Atiba, I just want to make mention of this, because we're going to talk about Canada soccer and some missteps that they've maybe had along the way in part 4 of this show. I just want to talk about this. So Sam and Atiba reached out to Canada soccer this week to try and get their message out to raise funds. And Canada soccer gave media 30 minutes notice for the call. They didn't even invite all media onto the call. And I can kind of understand why. They wanted maybe a select group of the mainstream media so it wasn't too crowded. But you don't have to ask everyone to ask a question. You can still have everyone on it and then have the main people ask the questions. Just get that out there. Atiba says in it, if you can get the link out to everyone, because I don't have it here. No email from Canada Soccer giving everyone on the media mailing list that link. We had to get it from watching other stuff. I also emailed them asking for the audio, and they didn't even send that through, didn't even reply to the message that I sent. So I feel they've let Sam and Atiba down in that regard. So we grabbed the audio from other sources. We wanted to promote it. We wanted to get that appeal out. If you can help, I know money's tight for everyone just now, but if you can help in any way, please do. And as we always say, there's no easy way to transition from these sad stories to the other stuff. So let's just say it's time for this week's Hot Chocolate Boy.
Hot chocolate boy, he's never had one. Hot chocolate bad one, hot chocolate boy.
Yes, we're back with another Hot Chocolate Boy. Our trips to the 13th Greater Vancouver Hot Chocolate Festival are still in full flow. And we've got another one to bring you the details about this week. And it's not just me this week, because I'm also joined by Hot Chocolate Girl. Say hi, Caitlin.
Hi, everyone.
Yes. My wife said we should spend more time together, doing more things together. So here she is on the podcast, and if only you had the visuals to see how delighted she is to be doing this section with me. So tell everyone where we went this week.
Where did we go this week? I think it was Butter Baked Goods.
It was
that
Butter
Okay.
Baked Goods on Mackenzie Street, part of Mackenzie Heights in Vancouver. And they have been offering 3 different things for the Hot Chocolate Festival this year. They had the Funfetti Hot Chocolate, which is a rich white chocolate with pink whipped cream and a festival of coloured sprinkles on top. Sprinkles do seem to be something that we've noticed in a lot of the ones this year. That's something that they're certainly going for. That's served with a delicious wedge of their famous Funfetti birthday cake with coloured sprinkles inside, pink buttercream on top, and more coloured sprinkles to finish. They also offered the Strawberry Fields Forever classic hot chocolate with a mountain of whipped cream and strawberry sprinkles, served alongside a strawberry marshmallow dipped in white chocolate. But no, we shunned both of those. We went for number 34 on the Hot Chocolate Festival list, the tongue-tingling mint hot chocolate. A rich, dark hot chocolate with a splash of mint to make your tongue tingle and give a refreshing aftertaste. Served with a moist chocolate cake with decadent mint buttercream and chocolate sprinkles. And I'll give you my thoughts on it shortly. Caitlin, what did you make of your tongue-tingling mint delight?
Well, first of all, it wasn't very tongue-tingling, and it also wasn't very hot. It was dark, but that's all I can say about the
Was it
hot
minty?
chocolate. Not overly so.
Oh, I thought it was quite minty.
No. Yeah. It was a little bit. I could taste mint, but I thought with the name of tongue-tingling mint hot chocolate, it would be a lot more minty.
And tongue-tingly.
Yeah, I guess.
What did you think of the moist chocolate cake?
Take out the word moist, and that's my answer.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a dry chocolate cake, I've got to say. We have had a lot nicer goods this festival. I mean, I enjoyed the hot chocolate. It was quite tepid. It did have a lot of kind of cream on the top. I shared pictures on the AFTN Canada Twitter account. I enjoyed it. I think I would probably have it 4th in our 5 that we've done this festival. Would you agree?
Yes. 4th sounds about right.
There's still time for everyone to get out, depending on when you listen to this episode. I mean, we're dropping this show for Valentine's Day, and the festival does run until February 14th, although some places are only running their selections until the 13th, so they maybe already have special Valentine's Day stuff planned outside the Hot Chocolate Festival. So you've still got time to get out if you want to take in any of those, obviously aside from the Chez Christophe Winter with a Kick, which has now stopped. But yeah, I also want to give a big shout out to Amanda Chow, who at the time of chatting to her at the weekend had been to 19 different ones in the Hot Chocolate Festival. I thought when Caitlin had narrowed it down to 29 that I thought doing 5. Possibly another one will squeeze in as well for Valentine's Day. But I thought that was going to be good. But Amanda's hit it out the park with 19. I've said she should do this section next year, so we'll hold her to her agreement in principle to do that. Are you disappointed we didn't do more? Could you have done 19?
No, definitely could not have done 19. I think the 4 or 5 that we have done, or potentially 6, is more than enough.
There you have it. And that is this episode's Hot Chocolate Boy and Girl.
Every girl yelling, wanting him to be the terror. Hot chocolate boy, he's a sensation. Hot chocolate nation, hot chocolate boy.
hot chocolate boy and hot chocolate girl there. Is that going to be the last one for our show this year? Well, we're hoping to maybe get out for a nice romantic hot chocolate on Valentine's Day, and if we do, we'll bring you the details of that one in the next show. There's a lot of things to love about the game of football in Vancouver, in Canada, in North America. There's also a lot of things not to love, and some of those are decisions made by Major League Soccer. Although, to be fair, it's not just Major League Soccer, it's kind of all leagues, governing bodies, whatever you want to say. Sometimes they just leave you shaking your head, and that's the current situation with the state of the MLS playoffs. Because we're less than 2 weeks out from the season starting, and nobody, not even Vanni Sartini, knows yet what the 2023 MLS playoffs are definitively going to look like. But there are rumours around, and The Athletic has been on this since last year, and they had an article just last week about it as well. So early last month, The Athletic had reported that all signs were pointing to the league introducing a best-of-3 series for the first round playoff matches, then transitioning to a single elimination format for the conference semi-finals and beyond. Reasons for that? The league want to ensure that every playoff participant can host at least one postseason match. That, I understand, not the worst thing, not ideal. Part of the new plan as well, though, of course, is to try and make the MLS Apple Season Pass all the more appealing, with more games on it, and of course generating more money, more income for the owners who would be hosting home games. Under the new proposed plans, which we'll mention, none of which have been confirmed, 62% of the teams in the league will make it to the playoffs. That's 18 of the 29 teams making it to the postseason, 9 teams from each conference making it. Teams 8 and 9 would be having a play-in game, and then they would play the top seeds in their conference, with the second placed seed in the conference playing 7th, 3rd versus 6th, 4th versus 5th. If everything was played out, there's potentially 25 playoff games this postseason, which is a lot. As mentioned, the semis and then finals and everything would be then transitioning to that single elimination game. It's a bit different from the original mooted plans, which was meant to be teams in groups and kind of have it like a mini Club World Cup. So that appears to be shelved. I'm quite pleased about that. Now, I'll say I like the current format. Far too many teams for me in this new one. I feel it's just going to dilute the quality of the postseason. It's going to make for some really dull games, some defensive games. The single elimination format at least brought some drama and excitement. So, Har, what's your thoughts on this proposed format? Obviously not confirmed yet, and who knows, maybe by the time this comes out it will be confirmed, but that's a lot of playoff games and a lot of teams making it into the postseason.
Playoffs? I think it's too many games. It's just, trying to make money for home games for the gate. It devalues the regular season when more teams get in than probably deserve. Obviously, if you have a best of 3, it does do more excitement for those 2 teams playing in each round, but the season's already as long as it is, and then you're going to add on extra playoff games. It's really just about making revenue and making more money for MLS teams and MLS owners. So while I do think maybe there should be some tweaking to the playoff schedule, I definitely don't think this is it. I think it's gone too far, and perhaps it's a bit dumb.
Yes. An issue I've got with it, Zach, is let's say it's Whitecaps Seattle in the playoffs, just to pick 2 teams. Seattle win the first game. Second game's at BC Place. Whitecaps obviously need to make sure they avoid defeat. The Sounders would be happy with a draw out of it as well. I would imagine that the games are going to go to like extra time and penalties as well to decide it on the night.
Why would you go to extra time? Just go right to penalties.
That probably will be what it is. It probably will go straight to penalties.
It would go to that.
Yeah, actually, that does make sense. But I mean, what's the onus on Seattle to attack in that second game? Play it a 0-0 draw, take the lottery of penalties. If you lose that, you've got another home game coming up.
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, they've had some weird playoff format stuff in the past, but nothing on this scale. Best of 3. That's the dump. Like, I'm sorry.
But also, like 62% of the teams can now make the playoffs.
Yeah, that too. Like, that is ridiculous too. I mean, if you're a team that doesn't make the playoffs.
Well, yeah, that's it, Har. It's like if the Whitecaps can't get in with 62% of the teams making it, you'd have to feel the pressures on Vanni then.
I think there's already pressure on him, but adding the playoff teams and making it more expansive, it would really add pressure for those teams that don't make it. And I think it just devalues the regular season. You know, what's the point of going and playing, all those games and getting maybe home field advantage? And you can go and lose 2 games quickly and you're right up to the playoff race. It's just messed up. It's just, they're trying to fix a problem that's not really there. I don't agree with that.
Well, talking of Vanni, even Vanni doesn't know what the playoff format's going to be yet. So I got a chance to ask him this week, in an ideal world, what would his perfect MLS playoff scenarios be? Here's what he had to tell me. We're a couple of weeks out from the start of the season, and we still don't know what the playoff format is going to look like. And I know you probably do know, but you can't say too much. The current format for the last 2 years seemed to work great. I loved it. I thought it was excellent. The article in The Athletic this week seems to indicate that under the new one, 62% of the teams are going to get in, and it could be 8 or 9 teams that make the postseason. In an ideal world, what would be your perfect MLS playoff situation?
Yeah. So I can tell you this. First of all, I don't know the playoff format because we had a meeting with the league staff. They always come with the competition staff and the referee to have a meeting with each team. And I actually asked, so guys, what's happening with the playoff? And they still don't know. So we'll see. From a sport point of view, from a fan point of view, I think that 50% of the team should be the cut for the playoff. Like, let's say, I don't know, 15, 14 teams, like out of 29. What I would like to see as a sports fan, in my opinion, I would love to see not Western Conference playoff and Eastern Conference playoff, but cross playoff, like the number 1 at East play against the number 8 at West, the number 2 at East play against the number 7 at West, for 2 reasons. For the first reason is because in this way you can understand probably which conference is the best at the end of the year. And the other reason is that imagine having a big rivalry in the final. Imagine maybe you can have the MLS Cup final with the New York Derby, or us playing Seattle, or Montreal playing Toronto. That would be something beautiful, in my opinion.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. So some thoughts from Vanni there, and feeling 50% max to make the playoffs. And Har, I like his idea of the East v West matchups with the potential you could have an all-Cascadian MLS Cup final, a New York derby, a Texan derby, just a real rivalry game in the final, which would really, really get the juices flowing.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea from Coach Vanni. The one thing I wonder is, what is the position of the owners in MLS? Because all that flying across the country, someone's going to have to pay for those charter flights, and they're not cheap. Also, let's say you have a New York derby or a Texas derby. It really just has interest in one local area. You're not really grabbing interest from coast to coast, where if you have an Eastern team versus a Western team. So maybe ratings-wise, that would maybe not be a great idea. But I do think they should maybe find some change for the playoff format. I was wondering, what do you think, Zach?
for Vanni's 50 max thing, like, yeah, I think even that feels high. But no, I don't get. I mean, sorry, I get why. Like you said earlier, this is about money and about providing more money and providing or making it possible for every team that every one of the 62% of the teams that make the playoffs get a home game, which is huge for their, revenue and for their, their fans and whatever. But
don't forget Apple TV.
Yeah, and then
all
of course
those extra games.
Apple TV. It's too. They're not one off. I think it would be hard for them to do the crossover, not because of the flight and money and stuff, more so because, I think what they're trying to do with these kinds of things like best of 3 and having the conferences not hardly play each other anyways during the season is to make it more North American, right? And so I can't see them then saying, "Hey, we're gonna spice it up" by then allowing this to happen. Although Vanni does make a valid point in terms of can you imagine the final being an LA Derby, a Cascadia Derby, a Toronto Montreal, a Dead Bull versus Man City Light, whatever. There are all these kind of intriguing things that could happen, right?
Or you could be stuck with San Jose Whitecaps, and then everyone in the East is like, "Yeah, don't care about that."
What dystopian future are you seeing? Is it like Michael or Baldissimo comes back to get vengeance on his former team?
Well, remember that joke I shared in the WhatsApp group about the genie giving wishes? I'll tell it down just now.
Is it bad? Is it a bad joke? I can't remember.
I stopped by Genie the other day and said, "I'm going to grant you a wish."
No, yeah, this one.
My wish was, I want to live forever. And she's like, I can't give you that wish. I said, "Okay, I want to live until the Whitecaps win the MLS Cup." And the Genie's like, "Oh, you crafty little bugger." It's a slightly different version of the joke. I'll clean that up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. How are you shaking your head there?
I sent the joke to her as well.
Oh.
Yeah, I did hear the joke. It was a little bit different, the one that I heard.
Yeah.
Cleaned it up. We'll save all the cuss until part 4. Anyway, that is it for this part. We're going to be back talking Whitecaps after this.
Hi, I'm Javian Brown, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Did you listen to my breath? 'Cause there's something in the air, and your love is all I need, for your love is true indeed. I've been looking down, and I don't know what I'm thinking about. You were standing right in front of me, and it only took a moment to see. I don't know which way to be, I don't know if it's enough. I don't know what you see in me, but I know I'm not about to give you up. I don't know which way to be, I don't know if it's enough. I don't know what you see in me, but I know I'm not about to give you up. Did you listen to my breath? 'Cause there's something in the air, and your love is all I need, for your love is true.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part from Glasgow, Scotland, Belle and Sebastian, former Artist of the Month, a song from their new album, Late Developers, that came out in January. Getting back to their best. I said a few shows ago, their last album didn't grab me the way I hoped. This has been a pretty good one. It's maybe their more accessible album so far, a bit more poppy as well, but a couple of real standout tracks on it. That was one of them. I Don't Know What You See in Me, a nice tale of love, continuing our love theme on the show, and we've got songs all about love peppered throughout the show. And let's talk about what we all love. Vancouver
Biscuits.
Whitecaps. Oh, Oh, I had some custard creams before you started recording, but you were late on, so I ate them, so I couldn't show them to you on the camera, so sorry. You remember I said I bought a double pack of custard creams, and I was going to give you half of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sorry.
You said they weren't very good, though, so that's
No,
okay.
but they were biscuits, so. So, yeah, let's get into our Whitecaps chat for the show, and still no announcement of signings at the time of this recording on Monday afternoon. And that is despite the fact that forward Sergio Cordova and goalkeeper Yohei Takuaka are actually down with the team in Palm Springs just now. And fans that have made the trip down there have been chatting away to them and giving me some little tidbits.
Share them, please.
Who traveled down?
I don't want to name the fans that's been giving me these little tidbits. So one of the updates that I got from the fans is that Takaoka, the Japanese goalkeeper, good news for us, apparently speaks great English, so we can get those interviews all done with him. And he's said that he's excited about this new chapter in his career, and he's been very impressed by the pace and physicality that he's seen in the games down there from the MLS teams. Cordova was described as being quite quiet, a little bit shy, and still looking from the outside in that he's still trying to fit in with his new teammates, which is understandable. I mean, hopefully we will get to maybe see them in this final pre-season game that is coming up, if they ever get announced. You have to imagine, Vanni's speaking to media on Wednesday. They surely are going to be announced before then.
Well, we thought last week, and we're still waiting for them to be signed officially. I asked Coach if the new players had met their new teammates, and it didn't sound like they had. But if they're mingling with fans, they're definitely down there. They're definitely in the vicinity. So they need to get these medicals done. I don't know if the medicals are done. I believe they are. They should be, it should be across the line. It should be finished. They should be training with their team by now. I don't think the visas are a holdup.
No,
I understand that Takeoka, because he's Japanese, there are different rules with Japan and the U.S., and he is allowed in the country, and he can train while he waits to get the visa done. So I don't think that's the problem. I don't think there's a problem there with visa. And Cordova obviously played with RSL last year, so I don't see a visa issue there. So I don't know what the holdup is. Maybe they're trying to figure out what their bonuses are going to be or what number they're going to wear. I have no idea. I expect it to be done soon. I think it should be done by now.
I liked Har's suggestion that it's because they're having trouble selecting their kit number.
Yes. I want number one. Well, you can't have number one.
Could you imagine if it's visa issues though?
I let's not start those rumours. I do not see any.
No. I don't think it is.
Cordova's played.
I hope it's not.
It's all going to be fine.
We're still waiting for Nagando's visa. I think he's still in Paris. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I think he is. But pre-season has continued apace down in Palm Springs. 3 more games played, just 1 to go now before the real business gets underway on the 25th. The Caps still unbeaten down in California, which is a good sign since they play a lot of games in California over the season. Wednesday saw a 3-0 win over Toronto FC. All the goals came in a 10-minute spell in the second half. Cristian Dajome got a brace, one of them from the spot. Javane Brown scored with a header off a rebound. Louis Martin's free kick crashed off the post. Fairly even first half. 2 very strong lineups in the first half. Isaac Boehmer saved a Federico Bernardeschi penalty with 5 minutes of the half remaining, and apparently that's only the second penalty that he has missed. I don't know if it's in his whole career or of late, but that's an impressive thing. It was a good save as well. The Italian also saw a shot cleared off the line by Tristan Blackman. TFC did make a full lineup change at half-time, and the Cats were too strong for them in the second half. Sunday, there was 2 back-to-back games, and the first up was the Harjeet Johal derby, as the Whitecaps took on Jake Nerwinski's St. Louis. Didn't seem like a classic, 0-0. White Betcher Gold led the line in that one for the Whitecaps. I've had good feedback on Simon Betcher from the fans down there, saying that he's running the channels well, good hold-up play, strong, good at getting the outside flanks involved into the game. Those that didn't play in that game played in the game against Las Vegas Lights, the USL Championship side, right after it. Now, that was their first pre-season game, so maybe can't take too much from that. But it was a 2-1 win. Pedro Viti scored in the first half, and then Dajome, with his 4th goal so far down in Palm Springs and on the pre-season trip, hit the winner with 13 minutes to go. looking positive, Har.
Yeah, some good play in the preseason, although it doesn't actually count in the real standings and the real stats. So see what they do against RSL. It's make-believe games. It's just practice. We're talking about practice games. It's good to get their legs underneath them to get fitness ahead of the season, but it doesn't actually really count. You probably already know what the lineup's going to be unless they get the new players incorporated rather quickly. A great showing from Cristian Dajome, so I think that's great. I would be interested to see how Thomas Saul does if he starts that home opener if Takayoko's not ready. So I'm curious to see how he would do against a top studded lineup when they're in there for the full 90. So this game against Minnesota is going to be a real big test, but it doesn't actually count, remember.
Yeah, Dajome is doing great from that wingback position in this preseason. Oh wait. Oh no, he's playing up front. Oh right, okay. That's good.
No, it's good to see him coming on. I asked Vanni Sartini just about Daho's form after the game against TFC. Here's what he had to say about that. So what did you make of the game today? Cristian Dajome seemed to certainly have a very good setting 45 minutes.
Well, it was really good, I would say, the entire game. The first half, they had more possession, but we defended very well. We didn't concede anything except for the penalty, that it was like maybe a 50-50. We were a little bit naive in conceding that penalty, but then Isaac made a great save. And we actually had 2-3 chances in counterattack to try to score the goal. Then in the second half, they changed the entire team and they play with their second 11, and we had more, I would say, the possession of the ball. And to be honest, Dajo has been probably the best offensive player so far, and it's not by chance that he scored the 2 goals.
I was going to ask you about Dajo. We spoke a lot about him last year. Small sample size, and obviously we're only getting little snippets up here, but from what we've seen, it looks like the Cristian Dajome from 2 seasons ago, and the Dajome that we hoped was going to kind of push on and be that offensive player. He looks like he's playing with that confidence and that bit of swagger again.
Yeah, and most of important, he's in a very good physical condition. Last year he came preseason not 100%. This year he came very well, and he can exploit his characteristics, his speed, his power in the first 10-20 meters, and he's playing well. He played basically in both the position as a number 9 or as one of the 2 10s, and he's actually doing very well.
Vanni, just with a little bit of words there on Cristian Dajome, but I mean, the concern is maybe that the goals aren't free-flowing right now, but defensively they look a lot better, and they'll get that chemistry going. Hopefully the goals will come, get Cordova in there to finish the chances. I do think Hassan will probably start that opener, Har, and then it's going to be an interesting battle between those two. There is that one game to go this coming Saturday with Minnesota, and you kind of have to feel, although Vanni keeps telling us that he's got anywhere from 16 to 22 as a starting 11, the number keeps changing, but you have to feel that most of the guys I think that start that Minnesota game we could see start that RSL game.
Yeah, who else is it going to put out there? They got 2 new players, 2 center backs. They don't have Cordova incorporated, and they don't have the new goalie incorporated. Of course, it's going to be Gold, Gressel, Brian Wright, Laborda, Blackman, Ranko. That's what we saw. That's what it's going to be.
I agree with Har that, you would think that it would be wise to plan your starting 11 for the season / home opener and make that who you're going to start with in Minnesota for the sake of chemistry and match fitness and all that kind of stuff. And so I'd be surprised if there's very many changes, even if the 2 players do get come across the line before the 25th. I think they'll both be substitutes that day, and they'll be integrated. The striker will be off the bench for that game, you would imagine, and then the Japanese keeper possibly even the week after, depending on the coach's observations and training and whatnot.
Yeah, going to be an interesting battle for a few of the positions. One of the other guys, of course, that has stood out this pre-season has been Ryan Raposo. We featured him on the show last week. Let's have one of our little fun segments just now, and let's see what is catching Ryan Raposo's eye on television these days. Here's TVOD.
TVOD, TVOD, TVOD.
TV shows, Ryan. What's your kind of TV shows of choice? What do you like to binge? Is there any shows that you go back and just watch over and over?
My favorite show of all time that I've watched maybe 6 times over is The Peaky Blinders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The Peaky Blinders is for sure I could watch that show like every day and not get sick of it. I just love, the show, and Thomas Shelby, he's a beast.
What you most watching just now then, aside from that? Like what's the current shows that really interest you?
There is, let me see. You know what? I like a lot of those real estate shows.
Oh, is this is this what you're going to get into when you finish playing?
I don't know, maybe. But the one show, it's called like Lux Listings. Those type of real estate shows where it shows like those nice homes and that sort of thing, and people bidding for it. And it's just, it's awesome.
Cool. That's great.
TVOD. I don't need a TV screen. I just stick the aerial into my skin and let the signal run through my veins. TVOD.
Ryan Raposo there, talking television, what he's enjoying watching. We've talked a little bit about this in the show, but let's see from Har. What shows are you currently watching? What's doing it for you right now?
There's a show that I like to watch. It starts in September, and it just ended yesterday, called the NFL. So I'm looking for new shows to watch. If you have any suggestions, holler at me.
I was just going to say my favorite show is Bundesliga Weekly, Bundesliga Special, Bundesliga Highlight Show. Those are my 4 favorites.
I do love to watch Coronation Street. So
yes.
I'm big into Corey. And I've discovered a Coronation Street podcast, and the hosts' name are Michael and Gemma.
It's not me and Gemma.
Did I see that they're rebooting Faulty Towers?
Yes.
And John Cleese is going to be in it?
He's going to be in it with his daughter, and it's going to be set in the Caribbean.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to be an interesting one. I'm still really enjoying The Last of Us. There's been
I haven't watched it yet.
Episode 3 and the one that's just showed episode 5, 2 absolutely amazing bits of television. If no one's seen those yet, watch the show. It's fantastic. I've also been playing the video game as well and absolutely loving it. Final bit of Whitecaps news this week was something we've known about for a little bit, but obviously I had to wait for the official announcement, and that is Ricardo Clark has taken over as head coach at WFC2, with Nick Dazovic moving on to Whitecaps BMO Academy high potential player head coach. I think that was the role that Gordon Forrest had here at one point as well. It's like the integrating of the academy guys into the first team setup and stuff like that. Ricardo Clark's been assistant with the Whitecaps for 2021-2022 seasons. Obviously, everyone knows what he did as a player in MLS, and coaching-wise, he's taken the Dynamo's under-19 academy team before and under-16 team. He's been an assistant coach with the US U20s, and he's currently completing his United States Soccer Federation Pro license, and with part of that, you need to really be more hands-on with a team hire. So a great move for him, obviously with Flo moving into the assistant role in the MLS squad. I'm looking forward to seeing what Ricardo can do with this young group of players. A new voice as well.
Yeah, I think it's a really great move. It's a great addition. Zaxo was telling me a few weeks ago they really wanted to keep Rico with the Whitecaps, and he wanted to get his FIFA license. So in order to do that, he would have to coach. And they didn't want him to leave and, go elsewhere and develop. So they moved him to FC2, and he has this opportunity to see what he can do as a coach. And obviously you have Flo moving into the first team staff. You have Michael D'Agostino and Yusuf Jaha with Vanni. So a little bit of shuffling in the coaching ranks. So we'll see how it impacts the team, the first team, and FC2. So yeah, some very positive moves off the pitch for the club.
A little bit surprised by it because I thought he was like a solid addition to the first team coaching staff, but for him, hopefully this gives him an opportunity to like run his own team and develop and grow as a coach. And we'll see what the future holds for him.
My big concern is we've talked before the MLS team has maybe a lack of experience. And Ricardo Clark doesn't have a wealth of experience, but at least he had 2 seasons under his belt, and now you've taken that away to replace it with a guy that's not had any as a coach. So that would be the only thing. I'd still like them to maybe bring an older head into the first team coaching, but his Ricardo all the best.
His experience went beyond his coaching, right? It was the fact that he knew the league so well too, right? That was super helpful.
But having a guy as well that's been there and done it in MLS, a 17-year playing career, he won 2 MLS Cups, he's been an all-star 3 times, played in Europe and with Eintracht Frankfurt in Germany and Stabæk in Norway, and 34 appearances for the US national team as well, including playing at a World Cup. Having a guy like that in charge of this young group of players as well at WFC2 should be a big boon for them, bringing new ideas, maybe raising this team to another level. But that is it for the Whitecaps chat for just now. We're going to be back with some more love chat after this.
Hi, I'm Vanni Sartini, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part and continuing our theme of Songs of Love, it's our Artist of the Month here at AFTN for the month of February, television personalities, the London post-punk band, and that is a song taken from their second album that came out in 1982. The album is Mummy, You're Not Watching Me, and the song is If I Could Write Poetry. And we kicked the show off with a poem about the game of football written by the ChatGPT AI app. So I got a bit carried away, as I mentioned, with that app and doing this. I got 3 poems written for our East 5 podcast, Glory Days of Gold. Make sure you check that out and wherever you get your podcast. And also, we've had a special live video up on the Glory Days of Gold YouTube channel to celebrate our 100th episode of that show. But a few poems in that. We've had the poem to kick off the show that the ChatGPT wrote about the game of football. So I thought, can they come up with a love poem for Vancouver Whitecaps? And oh yes, they certainly did. So I'm going to read that for you just now. And again, none of this written by me, all done by artificial intelligence. Here's what they came up with. O Vancouver Whitecaps, our heart's true desire, your spirit, your passion, sets our soul on fire. With every game, you bring excitement and cheer, and fill us with joy from year to year. That's perhaps stretching it a little bit. Your blue and white jerseys, so bold and bright, a symbol of hope and a symbol of light. Every time you take the pitch, we feel so alive, for your love of the game is impossible to deny. Your players so skilled, with hearts full of pride, their effort and determination they never hide. With every goal they score, our heart soars with glee, for we know that with the Whitecaps, there's no limit to what we can be. Again, little stretch there. So here's to you, Vancouver Whitecaps. Our love for you will never die, for in our heart you'll always be the team that makes us soar high, and we'll always support and cheer you on through thick and thin, for you're our heart's team, and our love for you will always win. I mean, just lovely stuff there. It would bring a tear to a man with a glass eye. Does it get the love going for you, for the team, for the season to come, for football in general? We love football, you love football, and you just have to watch Whitecaps head coach Vanni Sartini on the sidelines to know his love of the game. Last year we spoke to Theo Bair, David Egbo, Florian Youngworth and to St Ricketts about their love of the game. This year we're going all the way to the top. Whitecaps head coach Vanni Sartini talking about his love of the game, past and present.
It must be love, love, love.
So our next show's coming out on Valentine's Day. So, but obviously yourself, Italian, one of the languages of love. I'm sure you feel the language of love more than French. But you're a passionate man. You've got a love of the game. Where did your love of football come from?
You use the right word. Is the fact that love is the right word for football and also the right word for coaching. I think at the basing of being a coach, it needs to be a love for the game and love for the person that are around you. Specifically about the love of the game, for me, comes from two persons, my dad and my uncle, and I would say other two person, and another uncle and my grandfather, because I grew up watching my dad and my uncle play. They were playing the semi-professional league in Italy. And I was always going with my grandpa and another uncle to see them. So getting emotional, because when I think about my grandpa, I always getting emotional. And but everything that because it would be so fantastic for him to see me now being a professional coach. But and I have to say the love for the game is the love that I have for these four men that shaped my deep affection for this fantastic game.
I totally get that, because I grew up, my dad wasn't around, so my granddad, he was the one that took me to football, and it was our local non-league team that he took me to, and I can still smell like the liniment, and I can still picture everything, and it's those things that kind of stick with you. Fast forward into current times, what is it about the game now that you love? What is it that you just love about being involved in this sport?
I love a lot of things about the game. I love when I see the fact that in my team there's people from different nationality, different background, and they are together. And when people that becomes best friends, that it would have never happened if not like Tristan Blackman and Ranko Veselinovic. One guy is from Novi Sad, one guy is from Las Vegas, and they become best friends. It's something that only football can really bring together. So I really love this. And the other thing that I love is the fact that it's really something that can make happy a lot of people. Like if you think about the beautiful nights of last year when we won the final, when we went to the playoff, the fact that can bring a togetherness for 25,000 people at the same time, that is something that it really, 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 really makes me love this game, even if sometimes you are pissed about everything that is around, like I don't know, the human rights not being respected when you go to the World Cup in Qatar, or the huge amount of money and the cheating of money that you see even at the top level. You've seen in Italian, you've seen Italy, you've seen in England. But then when you see the game itself and how the game can really create emotion for people, that's the thing that make me love the game.
You're away, obviously, from your family for Valentine's Day, but as an Italian, we think of Italians as love. What's your tips for people at home, for their partners? How can I woo my wife? What would be your tips?
I think the most important thing is doing a small thing that you normally don't do. And that can be everything, because something that comes from your heart, even from, I don't know, it doesn't have to be a big gesture. Love is about a lot of things, but especially when we're talking about the marriage, love is about consistency. And I'm so happy that I've been consistent to love my wife for 20 years. And I hope that it's gonna, on her side, because on my side is okay, on her side is gonna continue for the next 20 or 30.
20 for me as well. And if I'm doing small things for her, I guess I should maybe start doing the housework. Thank you so much, Vanni. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
It must be love, love, love.
Lovely stuff there from Vanni Sartini, just talking about what got him loving the game of football, why he still loves it. And you just have to watch Vanni on the sidelines. You see the passion that he's got. Great guy to have at the club. Great guy to just be involved with all these young players. As always, share your love of the game as well. What got you interested in soccer? Especially if you maybe grew up in a kind of family or an environment where soccer wasn't a big part of people's lives. What got you loving the game? And what is it about the game today that you just love watching? We touched on this a little bit last year. For me, it's just football has everything. It's got the drama, it's just got the emotional roller coaster. You just don't know what's going to happen next. And if you really feel that you're part of the club that you follow and that you support, it's just a love that you will take with you to your dying days, and hope that they can just give you something to cheer about. Do you know what else we love here at AFTN? The Canadian Championship. Yes, that's right, we're going to talk a little bit about the Voyageurs Cup in this part. We touched on it when the draw was made, but we'll delve into it a little bit more this week, because all the dates have been announced for the 6 first round ties, and some cracking games await us this year. I'll run through how the schedule is going to play out. So it all kicks off on Tuesday, April the 18th. Forge FC hosting FC Laval at Tim Hortons Field. That's a 7 p.m. kickoff local time, 4 p.m. Pacific. Sadly, at the same time, because I really wish all the games were staggered so you could watch them all individually. But CF Montreal hosting Vaughan at Stade Saputo. That's the 2 games on Tuesday the 18th. 3 games the following day, and these ones are all staggered at least. 2 of them taking place at York Lions Stadium, because Halifax Wanderers were drawn out at home, but they're not able to host the game in Halifax. So their game against Atletico Ottawa has to get played on neutral grounds. York's Lions Stadium is the place it's chosen to be. So that kicks off 5 o'clock local time, 2 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday the 19th. And it's a double header at the stadium that day, because 3 hours later, York United are hosting Vancouver FC in Vancouver FC's first ever Canadian Championship matchup. And if we're talking about first ever matchups, the game that we're really looking forward to here at AFTN, genuinely counting down the days and cannot wait. TSS Rovers hosting Valor FC at Swangard. It's been announced for Wednesday 19th of April. Kick off 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. We'll touch on that in a sec, but let's just pack the stadium out for that one. Pacific FC Cavalry FC, the final of the first round games. That's taking place on Thursday, April 20th, kicking it off at Starlight Stadium at 7 o'clock. Should be 6 absolutely cracking first round matchups. We'll chat a little bit about that in a sec. But first of all, I want to play a little bit of audio from Whitecaps head coach Vanni Sartini, just chatting about the draw for this year's Canadian Championship, the chance for the Caps to defend their title, and that possibility of a first ever Vancouver derby. The draw was made for the Canadian Championship, and for the second straight year, the club's got a chance to get to the final, avoiding MLS opposition. We saw last year that doesn't necessarily mean it's an easy ride for you, but I mean, what did you make of the draw and your path to potentially going back to back in the tournament?
Yeah, it's like we have this chance to have this possibility, not having MLS opponents, but at the same time, we have a lot of chances to play away against CPL teams. So I know the only thing is like if Vancouver FC beat York, actually we'll play a BC Place. But if York wins and then the semifinal, in any case, if we win, it will be away, and playing away against a CPL team it's hard. Even last year, you saw us, in Calgary was really hard to win on penalty, but I remember Toronto winning in Halifax in last minute. So it's like it's not going to be easy for sure. But again, it's a competition where, thanks to the fact that we did very well in the competition last year, we have to play also one game less instead of winning 4 games. 3 games to win 3 games is enough to win a competition, and to win 2 games would be enough to have another final BC Place. So that's, I think, has to be our big incentive when we'll start to play the Canadian Cup.
And obviously, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, because that first game between York and Vancouver, who knows how that would go, but it does set up a chance for the first ever Vancouver derby. Now, we're from Europe, we're used to derbies being a lot closer than maybe what the derbies are in MLS and in Canada. What would that mean to you to be part of a derby against another team from the same city? It would be electrifying for sure. And, maybe it's happening this year, maybe it's happening in the future. It will happen for sure. And I genuinely wish the new Vancouver team every success, because if they do a successful product and it becomes one of the leading franchise in the CPL, and it can really, I would say, help the movement in Vancouver and in BC, and also create some sort of rivalry. Again, we don't want to go further, but in case we win, maybe there's a chance to play Pacific again. There's another derby, and last time we lost, so that's I like when there's also local rivalries, not only national rivalries.
He's the gaffer. You can't try it on with him. He's the gaffer. Even when he's on a limb. He's the gaffer. When his back's against the wall, has the answer to it all. He's the gaffer.
So Vanni there, just chatting about the possibility of this first ever Vancouver derby that we could see in the quarterfinals of this year's Canadian Championship. And it's another great chance for the Whitecaps, Zach, this year to make it back-to-back wins for the first time in their history, with no opposition faced until, at the earliest, the final. And even then, that's not guaranteed, because Toronto and Montreal look like they could meet in the quarterfinals. And, I mean, who knows? There could be another few shocks along the way there in the semis.
You said no opposition. I think you meant to say no MLS opposition.
Oh, no MLS opposition. They will have some opposition. Yes. But I mean, it's a great chance for the Caps to go back-to-back here.
Yeah, I think, looking at the possibility, I think they'll be very excited in the same way, like their fans will be very excited in the same way that they were last year, for sure. It is, an opportunity. I think Vanni also, I think, has said it a little bit about how important this is, and they'll see this as a way that they can continue to grow a winning culture at the club, add that significant trophy to their cabinet, and keep qualifying for the Champions League, and which comes with GAM, for them in their league, and so that's really, really, really helpful.
I mean, obviously, with the whole TSS Rovers side of things, and I love cup shocks, and I've been trying to sell this game to people by saying, if you've enjoyed watching Wrexham in the FA Cup, then here's an example. And I was using Darvel in Scotland as the example because they'd knocked Aberdeen out. They're 6th tier in Scotland. That may not have been the best example because they played their next round of the Scottish Cup today and got gubbed 5-1 by Falkirk. But you get these cup sets anyway. And Vancouver FC, of course, hoping to make their first ever win and set up that Vancouver derby. I mean, it's going to be tough for Vancouver FC going to York. We don't know what all the finalised rosters are yet, but that is the worst possible draw that they could have got, really.
Except for the fact that they do play there in the league, like right after. So I think
I guess
they'll play the cup, they'll play the league.
Yeah.
Have you heard? I forgot. I haven't talked to you about this. I don't think we've talked about this. So I've heard counter reports that the May 9th game, should Vancouver FC win against York, that they'll that the game actually will be in Langley and not a BC place.
That is not what the Whitecaps have said, but also my understanding from speaking to Colin Elms is you had to commit to be able to host every round. And if you
and that's where the discrepancy, I think, lies. Yeah.
This is also the issue that Atletico Ottawa are potentially facing as well.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, we can host from the quarterfinals onwards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, it sounds like back down on that and say,
it sounds like there's been some miscommunication there, because I know from what the people at Vancouver FC have told me is that they told the CSA, because our stadium might not be ready, we can't host the first round, but we would definitely love to host after that. So,
well, Colin's understanding was everyone was told you have to commit to host everything or nothing.
Nothing.
Now, I'm still of the opinion that the lower seed should always host anyway, so I'd love it to be at Langley, and you'll have a way better atmosphere than at BC Place as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it would be fantastic. I mean, just to finish this part, while we're on the subject of Vancouver FC, a couple of big stories this past week surrounding them that we really should mention. Common sense prevailing as the CPL moved the first ever match for the team and the first ever BC derby in the CPL from the Friday night to 4 p.m. on the Saturday, April the 15th at Starlight Stadium in Langford. Fans can now travel without having to make it an overnight trip and all the expense that goes with that.
Yeah. So the CPL bigwigs there's a significant CFL influence who thought, it'd be a great idea to have a Friday night game. Well, finally clued into the fact that that's counterproductive. So, it's good to see that.
And there's a ferry involved. Like, have a Friday night game that's York and Forge.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Fantastic. The ideal Friday night game to kick your league off.
Totally.
An Ontario derby, fans can just travel between the two with relative ease.
Well, there's a bit of traffic, but yeah.
Yes, at that time of night. But I mean, that's common sense. I mean, I think everyone's hoping, expecting that there'll be buses going over, official buses, and you can definitely do it in a day now instead of staying overnight. I can't wait, looking forward to it. I'd have had to take a day off work on the Friday, overnight hotel, and then come back, all the expense with that. So, I mean, this is fantastic. The other big story, of course, the stadium renderings have finally been unveiled. It's not ideal. It's not maybe what we first saw some renderings of many moons ago now, it feels. That's the negatives. On the plus side, it looks a nice intimate venue. Fans close to the pitch. They just have to make sure they've got sunscreen on or bring umbrellas because there isn't a roof. And the club just have to make sure that they can fill it now.
Yeah, I'll save my comments on the things that are, aside from the rain and the sun, that are not ideal about the stadium for a little bit further down the road, maybe, because there are some frustrating shortcomings to it all, and there's not solutions for for at least some elements of it. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's tragic that the municipality wants this to happen like this, and that the owners can't do anything to make it otherwise. To start with the roof.
Yeah, but there is possible phase 2 expansion. We should also say as well.
Yeah, totally. So I guess my hope is that things will go so well there that there will be a great desire to see expansion to the facility, including a roof, happen. So,
as someone that has, I've gone on a lot about the rain because, like, genuinely, if you've got a young family, for example, you're not wanting to take a pair of kids, say 4, 6-year-old, to sit in the rain for 2 hours. And I know folk can then say, well, the Whitecaps sold out Empire when it was rainy and all that kind of stuff. And there might not be tons of rain in the summer, but you're starting off
in April
June
or in
can
May.
Get a lot of rain. September, October can as well. Obviously, last year was quite freaky in that regard. But the sun aspect, as somebody that was only here 2 years and got skin cancer, which I got cut out, all clear, nothing to worry about in that regard, that is something that would concern me. I'm hoping obviously the press box has at least some kind of covering, because you don't want your laptops and equipment soaked either. So I'd imagine that there is some covering for that. But for the general fans, it's how sunburn and heat stroke and things could be a real possibility as well. Not to mention red hot metal bleachers potentially.
There could be issues. Here's the thing, though. I think whatever the weather, whatever the downsides of the weather is, it's ultimately the atmosphere at the stadium and what those match days mean are what you make out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so my desire is to make them as meaningful and as enjoyable as possible.
Continuing the love, because we know that Zach has a lot of love for Vancouver FC. We still hope to have Rob Friend on the show. That's hit a slight speed bump, let's just say, because he's got a few things to sort out at the moment before he wants to talk to us.
I think some of the delays of some of this stuff has kept him from.
Yeah. I think he knows what I was going to ask him about, and it's like, let's just wait until some things are sorted before we.
Yeah, and actually, while we're recording, Michael, I know you haven't seen it, but while we're recording, they've put out just some final details on, not final details, some information about ticketing.
Oh.
So so by the time within less than 90 minutes of us finishing this is the deadline to get your deposit in. So if you're listening to this and you haven't got your deposit in, you won't be able to get in on the pre the pre-sale until things go on to the sale to general public. But also those who have put their deposits in later tonight will be receiving an email, I think, with the seating chart map and price guide, I believe. So
fantastic.
Yeah. And then I think phone calls happen starting this week for people on that list, and they can start getting their season tickets.
Yeah, I hope to head out to some training out in Langley this week. I'll get some photos taken of the work of the stadium, see the team in action as well. That's it for our positive chats about Canadian soccer. Now we're going to move on to what has not been a good few days for Canadian soccer after this.
Hi, I'm Stephanie LeVay, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Loves me?
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, Grebo Band, Pop Will Eat Itself, with their song from their 1987 debut album Box Frenzy. Oh, there is no love between us anymore. And it certainly feels that there's not a lot of love between the Canadian national team players and Canada soccer right now. Yes, we've saved the biggest and most talk about story and bombshell story to the last part, because we want to keep you all listening. That's the main reason. Also, there doesn't seem a lot of love from fans and media towards Canada soccer right now either. And I think it takes a lot to unite the soccer community from coast to coast here in Canada. But well done, Canada soccer. You've done that. I never thought I'd utter that phrase on the show, but I mean, there we go. Now, this show's going to get marked explicit anyway because of some other stuff that's in it. So I think the only thing I can say is, what a fucking farce and what a fucking embarrassment the past few days have been in Canadian soccer. The powers that be in the ivory towers of the game in this country should hang their heads in shame for letting it even get to this stage. Now, Harvey touched on that you're heading down to the tournament tonight after recording this show. Canada's set to play at the She Believes Cup against the US on Thursday, Brazil on Sunday, and Japan on Wednesday. We'll get into all the things that's happened in the last few days, but I mean, you're flying down there just now. You don't really know what you're even flying into.
Yeah, we don't know, what kind of game we're going to get, who's going to play, how they're going to perform, what the U.S. are going to do. Are they going to do a counter protest? Is anyone going to wear their jerseys, their kits inside out? Is there going to be any moment of silence? Are they going to cover up any logos? And yeah, we're just trying to see what the next big news thing is, or what the next big statement is, or where this goes from here. They've over the weekend, the Canada Soccer Association and the Players Association, they put out different statements. They were threatened with a lawsuit, and they don't have the money to be able to go to court. They're not making millions of dollars. There's not a Christine Sinclair or a Becky that's got endorsements. There's a lot of younger players that are just getting their first caps in, so they can't afford legal costs and all that goes on behind the scenes.
But that's not a legitimate concern.
No, I'm not saying that's why they had to, stop their fight.
I mean, it is a legitimate concern, Zach. If someone was threatening to sue you and you don't know if you're going to win the case, you can't take that risk.
No, okay, yeah, but sorry, what I meant to say is that when you have labor issues, there's ways that they're handled, and there's a way that you go about them, and this is what happens in labor disputes. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying the CSA is doing a great job. I'm not
He's
saying
getting paid by the CSA, Har.
He loves the CSA.
But this is how these things play out. So to say I feel bad for them because of the legal system and whatever, no, this is what happens in these kinds of situations. They wanted to be unionized, which I'm all for, but and they're facing the issues that come with that. But this is playing out the way these things play out for teachers and for the guys at the docks and I'm forgetting what they're called, the longshoremen. This is what happens with unions, right? This is how these things work. So I don't know.
Well, if you've been living under a rock, you might have missed some of this. We'll do a very brief recap, and I'm saying a brief recap primarily because there's been so many statements issued from Friday to today. Even just before we started recording this, statements came out. I've had more emails with statements in the last couple of days than I've had Nigerian princes offering me some money to smuggle it out of the country for them. That's how bad it's been. So the Canadian women's national team issued a statement on Friday where they basically said that they were outraged and deeply concerned with the news of significant cuts to the national team programmes for 2023. They understand that the men's team shared their frustrations and concerns, and they'll issue their own statement as well, which we'll come to now. I'm not going to read all these statements out because they're all very, very long. But in short, the women said they've been patiently negotiating with Canada Soccer for more than a year. Nothing has still been done. And the new budget reality has kind of hit home, that they'd had to cut not only training camp days, but full camp windows. They cut the number of players and staff invited into camps, significantly limiting the already limited youth team's activities, all while they faced immense uncertainty about their own compensation. They said, "We are tired of constantly having to fight for fair and equal treatment and for a programme that will give us a chance to achieve what we know this team is capable of for Canada." They basically said that they were going on strike and they weren't going to train, they weren't going to play in this She Believes tournament. Sink and Janine Becky went on TSN. If you haven't seen that half-hour interview, it's fantastic. And I mean, we knew things were bad, Har, and you're obviously way more clued in on this than us and a lot of other people. But just from the opening minutes of that conversation on TSN, you find out about the poor quality accommodation that they're being put up in, that the staff has been cut, that the number of players they could have in the camp were limited. Youth camps are only allowed to have one camp per year now. And that after the World Cup, the women's programme is going to shut down. And travel-wise, that players have been out of pocket, that those travelling in from Europe could travel business class, those within America and Canada had to travel economy. They were told they had economy plus tickets, which then turned out not to really be the case, and players had to pay for that themselves out of their own pocket. I mean, when all this came out, were you surprised at the timing of it? Were you surprised that they basically said, right, we're going on strike here?
I think I was more surprised by the timing, not really what was in the statement and what they were saying. Another thing they mentioned is they haven't been paid for 2022.
Yeah.
They played 17 games. Where is their money? Where's their compensation? And another thing is that they're not getting a home game. At least that's not scheduled for April. How do you go off to the World Cup, have a send-off game, and then you don't showcase your women's national team Olympic champions? So there's just a plethora of things that are being cut budget-wise, and the women's team is saying, this is not what the men faced leading up to their World Cup. They want to be treated equally and have the same opportunity and funding that the men's team had. So I think they have a strong point, but how do they get that across and get to where they want to be? That's the challenging part. That's where we're at right now. What do you think, Zach?
Did the men's team have a home send-off? See, I wasn't there, so I don't remember.
The thing is, as well, though, I've seen a few folks say this, home games in Canada apparently lose Canada soccer money because they're going to have to pay for the opposition to
still
come
have
over.
to play them.
And yeah, I mean, they are there to basically provide games and opportunities for Canadian players. That is why Canada soccer exists, to regulate the game and spread the game and grow the game.
So if you invite a team over to play them, you have to pay for their travel costs.
Yep.
You have to pay for their accommodations. I don't know that a lot of people may know that.
So just speaking of that, I haven't heard, I think I've heard a couple people ask this question, but I don't think I've heard it answered. Do these budget cuts, other than the fact that it's a year where they're expected to make less revenue, are these impacted by what happened with the Iranian friendly in Vancouver?
That could be a factor. That could be a possibility. We don't really know the full story.
Because wasn't Iran supposedly threatening, or maybe it was?
Oh yeah, they were threatening to sue. We never heard any more about that, did we?
$10 million lawsuit, right? Essentially, is what was the rumor.
But they did. The women's players put out some notes on expenses that basically showed the revenue, and I've got Sink's tweet up here that has that in. The revenue increased. The excess of revenue over expenses in 2020, they made a profit basically of 180,000, and they made a profit in 2021 of 5.3 million. So the question that everyone's asking is, where has this money gone?
Well, the money's going somewhere. It's not going to the players.
It's going to be interesting to see what their profit is for 2022. I mean, as you can imagine, Canada Soccer's response to the threat of going on strike was then, as we touched on, to threaten the women's players with legal action, to sue them to recover costs, which could be potentially millions.
Again, that's all because of how unions and labor stuff works. The CSA, I know it looks bad, and there's lots of problems in this whole thing where I think the CSA has done the women's team wrong and done the men's team wrong. But to get upset for them to follow kind of standard practices in labor disputes to me is not one thing that you can hold against them. Right? They're saying, look, you're unjustly striking under the how these things work, and I don't understand. This is not a language I speak. It's not a world I live in. But to get mad at them for doing that, to me, I know it makes them look bad, but they're actually kind of following normal everyday procedure that would happen in any other scenario. No,
seems shady to me.
Yeah. See, this is where it comes in. It's like, are these players technically they are employees of Canada Soccer? But their main employers are the clubs that they play for. And they are being called up by the national team, who are not their main employers.
See, I think they're struggling with the growing pains of unionizing, right? They wanted this, they wanted to be recognized as a players association. And now that's the downside of that is kind of being held against them.
But I think even if they went in a union and they said, well, we're not playing, they still have had the threat to sue. Like whether they've unionized or not, it's got nothing to do with it. They were going to sue them if they went in a union. If it was just a group of players that said we're not playing, the reason Canada Soccer have threatened to sue them, and I do, this is what I will say, I will understand why they threatened to sue them. Because Canada Soccer, and they kind of touched on this in their statement on Saturday, said that under Ontario labour law, they can't go on strike. And then again, it's like you're saying, well, are they governed by Ontario law? Canada Soccer is based in Ontario, so in that regard they are. But again, it's like, are these players contractors with Canada Soccer, or are they employees of Canada Soccer?
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's a fair thing to get to the bottom of, Michael. But I think if they weren't in a union situation, and again, I'm not anti-union or anything, but I don't think that the CSA, it's not like they would have said, okay, we're suing 22 different players. I don't think they would have done that. They would have either cancel the thing, or they would try and bring in other players who wanted to play.
See, the problem they've got
in theory,
but this is why they've threatened to sue them hard, because if Canada didn't play in the She Believes Cup,
they lose
big money. US Soccer would sue the ass off them, because they'd either have to bring in a second US national team to play the games, which, to be fair, a lot of the fans that's attending probably wouldn't mind that, and they'd have been quite happy with it.
Well, that's why I said they had to, come back off their protest, because they can't afford to, have all that. If they have a lawsuit, they can't afford to, go to court and have to pay all these finances. So that's why I said earlier that that's a factor as well. And I think them not being paid for their work in 2022, I don't know how the CSA can explain that.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. This doesn't make sense. The only thing I've heard, Nick Montes gave an interview not that long ago, a week or two ago, and one thing he was talking about, and I'm sure he was trying to get some things out preemptively, but was that I think they haven't received any of their men's World Cup money yet. Like Canada Soccer has not received that, which is 2022 money. They haven't even gotten it yet.
Yeah, but they know that that's coming. What other job would be prepared? Like you're saying, you're an employees, you can't do this action because it goes against employee law, but we haven't actually paid you for 2022, which is also against employee law.
There you go. Yeah. So maybe the players
should have threatened to countersue. Yeah,
totally, and that's totally valid too. Like, but again, then Har's point would come back to the players maybe individually, collectively can't afford to do that. Yeah. Which is that
is the big issue, because these players don't make much money in the grand scheme of things.
And because of that, I would like to see what happened with Hockey Canada earlier last year with their with the sponsors pulling out in droves. I'd like to see the sponsors who sponsor Canada Soccer, let's see them do some action. Let's see them put out some statements, or maybe withdraw some funding if they're doing that. Because the women's team, they need help. They need some support, whether it be the sponsors or maybe government stepping in.
Yeah, okay, but two things, Har. Number one, to say we want to grow the game, whether the men's, women's, both, whatever, and then say I want sponsors to take away money is counterproductive. Two, if the Canadian government steps in, then FIFA steps in and shuts down the CSA completely. Like the government can't get involved. There's these rules with FIFA where the government can't get involved with elements of how the National Football Association is run. Otherwise, they're like sidelined for a period of time.
Yeah,
Michael, you can correct me on that.
No, that they could technically sanction and say, well, you're not hosting the World Cup in 26. You're not allowed government involvement. But going to the first point, which I forget what that was. What was the first point?
I would take that chance. You need to clean up the program. I would definitely.
The sponsors.
Yeah.
That is a way to put the pressure on the top brass, because they've been announcing these sponsorship deals left, right and centre in the build up to the World Cup. Not a day seemed to go by without me getting an email going, such and such is the new straw provider for Canada soccer and all this stuff.
Not straws, Michael. Those are evil.
Paper straws. Paper
straws. Okay.
That's what happened with Hockey Canada. Look at all the sponsors that pulled out. It made a huge difference.
And that's what caused change, because there needs to be change at the top. I mean,
but hard. Also, the ice hockey thing it is not apples and oranges, right? This is like
I know it's different. That was an abuse scandal.
Yeah, this is labor dispute versus abuse scandal.
I tell you, I did not know going into this that Zach loved the CSA so much.
I do.
He's changed since going to Qatar.
No, it was familiar. I didn't know he was in their pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah. In
wow.
pocket.
He's going to rip off his hoodie in a second. It's going to be a "I love Canada Soccer" T-shirt underneath.
Yeah.
I'm just providing a counter argument to some of the things you're saying. I don't think the CSA is great in all this, but
it's fine. I mean, I'm disliking you during this, so I mean, I don't know what the listeners are going to make, but
there's a call tomorrow with the players, so we'll see kind of what the next step is and what they're saying and what ideas they have.
Because the players issued a statement on Saturday saying that they've been forced to go back to work. Christine Sinclair's very adamant that they've been forced to get back to playing, and they said this fight is not over. And it does make sense in a way, because US Soccer would have sued Canada Soccer if they pulled out the tournament at short notice. Interestingly, though, the men had that friendly that was cancelled against Panama here in June. Now, obviously, that was arranged by the CSA, but they didn't say, well, you going on strike is against our labour laws in not playing that game. So again, why is it okay for the men to go on strike but not the women?
Zach?
I don't know the answer to that, but was it was the players' union wasn't fully recognized at that time? Was it not?
But that doesn't matter. You've got the players.
I think it does, Michael. I don't
so
speak.
Basically, they'd be happy to sue a union, which I guess they would be doing, and not the players.
I think it's easier for them, yeah.
Because like the statement then that the CSA issued on Saturday, which was explaining why they had done this threat, blah, blah, blah. They also, which I thought was farcical, said that it would also affect the countless fans who had undoubtedly travelled to Orlando. Look at all the fucking fans that had travelled to Vancouver. Folk that got the ferry that Sunday morning.
Yeah.
They didn't give a toss about them.
All the fans that don't get a home game in April. What about those people?
Yeah. Sunday and Monday, players back training, shirts turned inside out, tape over the Canada Soccer thing. As Har said, it'd be interesting to see if that's how they're going to play, how the US are with that as well. I'm pretty sure the US will be in solidarity. We know that the men are in solidarity with all of this as well. They issued their own statement that maybe did not go down quite as well, because it's been seen by some as an attack on the Canadian Premier League. I feel folk have read a little bit too much into that. I see why they feel it's an attack, but it was just poor wording, I think, of saying minor league. But in the grand scheme of world football, the Canadian Premier League is a minor league, but it's our league and it's our top league.
Yeah,
that's my devil's advocate.
I mean, again, these things aren't all black or white. Right, they're not just like, oh, this side has done everything perfect, this side's done everything wrong, and in my perception, anyways. And so this is an example where I'm happy that the men's team is on board with the women's team and supporting them and backing them. I know that there's been miscommunication between the two in the past, even last year. so I think it's good that they're supporting. They're supportive, and they want some of the they're not happy about how the budget's cut for this year and how this is going to impact the preparations for the World Cup in Australia and whatever. So I think I stand with them in that. I think that's great. I think the awful thing was they made a very, very poor PR decision, and they made a very, very poor. It's not just wording choice. It just seems like kind of moronic that you would speak down to the players who are going to be raising up into your program and taking that next step, and that you're essentially they tore down part of the pyramid that is like the lifeblood of the future of the game in the country. It was really, really, really foolish, in my opinion, that wording.
Well, I mean, the build up to this, everyone's obviously been attacking Canadian soccer business in this, and I just want to reiterate, because Dental Damnation had asked me this on Twitter. It's like, weren't you saying how good for Canada soccer the CSB was? The CSB has been good for Canada soccer in that if there was no Canadian soccer business, there would be no Canadian Premier League right now. And it would not have survived through the pandemic, even if they had got something up and running.
It's not even the pandemic, Michael. There would be no Canadian Premier League, period.
Probably wouldn't be. But that said, I don't like that Canada soccer, and this has been my thing from the start, I've always said I didn't agree that Canada soccer signed this marketing deal that let them have all the marketing rights for the league, for Canada soccer, for the national team, so that they're getting all these deals done, but the players that's playing for the national team's not getting the benefit of it. And that's always been a big issue for me. Now, talking of all the statements, Zach, that have been coming out left, right and centre, the latest one came out just before we started recording this, which was from Canada Soccer Business. And again, I won't read the whole statement, but basically they said that their goal since inception has been to work with all stakeholders in the game to help make soccer Canada's most popular sport. In pursuit of this goal, we have invested close to $100 million in the development of the game and will continue to do so. Our group of partners includes former national team players such as Rob Friend and Josh Simpson, and they are giving back to the game and country that provide the platform for the success. No investor in Canadian soccer business has ever taken a distribution, which I take from that to mean, Zach, no person in Canadian soccer business has taken money personally to line their pockets. It's all gone back into the Canadian Premier League, the teams, stuff like that.
Yeah. My understanding, yes, is exactly that the money that the CPL owners who make up the CSB, the money that they get from it is going to offset operating costs, and they're still, at this point in their history, losing money, which also is a little bit counter to the men's language of, it's not yet a for-profit league. I mean, it is a for-profit setup, but the league is not making any money.
No, and it's going to be a while yet. Because, I mean, their statement also says a central element of this outreach is ensuring any incremental funding provided by CSB is directed towards programming that can make a meaningful impact now and the future. So it's talking about national teams and stuff there. They do back the Canadian women's national team in that they need more resources and pay equity and everything like that, and they're ready, willing and able to partner with all stakeholders to help make that happen. So, I mean, I feel that they feel that they've been getting attacked, and a lot of folk want Canada Soccer to kill this deal dead with Canada Soccer Business. Now, that then leaves Canada Soccer open, I'm sure, to possibly getting sued, and that's speculation on my part. It's a giant mess though, Zach, and you do have to feel if the CSB went away, I think the CPL would not last. And getting this women's league up and running, whether it's through Project 8, whether it's Project 8 tied in with the CPL owners or whatever, who they already had plans to try and get something happening, you'd have to then wonder about the future of that project as well. Alternatively, it could free up more money from people to put into the Project 8 project. Yeah,
the Project 8 thing to me is just weird because it's not actually sanctioned by the CSA at this point. And I know they're in that process of doing that. We can talk about that some other time. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the CPL only exists because of the CSB. There's multiple things that have played out differently than everyone thought, right? The whole thinking in this deal, and one of the reasons why it was for so long, is because it gave those owners a light at the end of the tunnel with the nation being a co-host for the World Cup, and that kind of meaning that there would be some money for the CSA to make to help offset the costs of the league. Again, would that, or or will that cover all their losses? I don't know. So things that no one expected to happen were, one, like you said, the pandemic that made the losses even worse for the CPL and their owners. And then two, no one in their right mind expected that the Canadian men's national team would be in the 2022 World Cup and the benefits that come with that. So yeah, we're the CSB, we're the CPL owners excited about that, of course, because it helps offset more of the losses of running the league. So I think this statement is them coming out and saying, look, yeah, we're not making money off this deal ourselves. It's helping to offset costs, and we are open to sitting down I think the statement kind of says they have been talking to Canada Soccer about how can they help in these situations, and they're open to sitting down and saying, what can we do to help make things better in this situation?
So hard. How do you see this moving forward then? Resolution seems a long way away, but how do you see things like this moving forward?
It's going to be messy, like a dog's breakfast. We don't know what's going to happen, who's going to play, what kind of mood they're going to be in, how the coaching is going to go, what the other opponents are going to be. I don't know how you can put it aside and play in these important games. And the U.S. game is the toughest team they're going to play before the World Cup. So I see it getting more rocky before it's resolved. So we'll see what happens next.
So same question to you, Zach. How do you see this proceeding now? Because it's a giant mess. Everyone on the players' side feel that they're very far apart from Canada Soccer. All Canada Soccer statements seem to paint the picture that they're very close to getting the deal done. They've been working hard behind the scenes. It feels like Canada Soccer feel that the negotiations are at a level up here, and the players feel that it's down there, and there's a big gap between the two. So I think each side's perception of how these talks have been going, and there was a 5+ hour meeting in Orlando, which had been apparently previously scheduled anyway, on Saturday, that we don't know what was discussed at, but it does seem that these parties are very far apart and looking at how things are going very differently.
Yeah, you talk about like what's the path forward? Yeah, I don't know. I know there's some people are still hopeful that because the CSB reduced their payments to Canada Soccer during the pandemic because of they weren't able to run a league properly, that I've heard people talk about how they still hope that is an avenue by which Canada Soccer could void their deal with CSB and or redo it or whatever. I don't see that happening. And again, these are the CSB and CPL. They're partners with Canada Soccer in helping them live out their mission, which is to grow the game in Canada. And so I think people who have vilified the CSB, CPL, I understand why, but it's a very, very short-sighted approach to me. Are they perfect? Have they done everything right? I don't know everything they've done, but have they done everything right? Probably not. But this is most likely the best way. We're in the middle of it, so I don't think, like you said, going back or stopping the progress of this train is only going to cause significant damage.
Yeah, a lot of derailments.
Yes.
And I mean, if we're keeping these analogies going, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? You'd have to feel it is. I mean, it does feel like after the men turned the pressure up in June, with the World Cup looming and everything was kind of forgotten about in the public sense. Obviously, the players haven't forgotten about this. And the players are looking at this CSB deal and going, well, you're benefiting from our success, and we're not benefiting. And I get why they're viewing that. I think it's harsh to blame the CPL and the owners. They put forward a deal. Canada Soccer could have turned that deal down.
Yeah, ultimately, Canada Soccer are the ones who bear the responsibility in this. But again, I do think the reason why they made those decisions back in the day, in case people don't know this, again, is those rights that they sold cost them money.
Because again, we should reiterate, nobody wanted to show the Canadian national team games.
No one would show.
Canada Soccer had to pay to get the games on TV.
And the CSB deal gave them a guaranteed revenue of whatever it was, like $1 million, at least $1 million a year, going forward. So they turned a negative into a positive. Yes, they what's the saying? They mortgaged the future or they mortgaged the present to secure the future, or whatever kind of. Whatever
they sold their soul to the devil was another phrase. But anyway,
yeah, that's a bit different. But because again, they're partners in this, Michael.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean,
it's move everything forward.
It's a giant mess. And I don't like. You've got a World Cup coming up for the women, and the uncertainty hanging over the team.
I feel horrible.
The Voyageurs have issued a statement.
Yep.
Quite rightly, folk have got in touch going, how can we help? How can we let these players know that they've got the support? Now, the Canadian players, as Hard touched on there, they've got a call coming up from media on Tuesday. So they're going to try and address things there.
The one thing that the women's team have done well, and even better than the men's team, is they're using all they can, their voice on social media and engaging with their fans, engaging with the community in good ways to leverage it as best they can. So they've done a great job in that. And that's what this call, tomorrow's call, is going to be. Another opportunity for them to press their case in the public eye. And I just want to be clear. I do hope that they can have the best preparation possible for the World Cup. Same as whatever the men had. I think the women should have. I think the fact that there's not a home send-off game, that should never happen. Yeah, I feel that where things are right now, if they can be remedied ahead of that World Cup, I think they should be. How that happens, I don't have the inside knowledge to tell you how that can or should happen.
No, I mean, folk are wanting heads to roll at the top. We'll see if they do, but we know this story is going to run, and I think the coming week there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out. But that's pretty much it for the football chat. There's been some fun. There's been some sad things we've talked about, some despair. We've shared our love. So let's just finish with a little bit of fun. And it's time for this week's Wavelength. We're going to finish with some light relief. And friends of the show, Cunt and the Gang, are back with a song for Valentine's Day. And as always, when we play their songs on the show, we will say, not for the easily offended, just fast forward, parental advisory lyrics, all that kind of nonsense. But I mean, let's be honest, if you're listening to this show after all this time and you're easily offended, I'm not really sure what you're expecting from us anymore. I mean, we've all fallen in love with football. You fall in love with a player. Fans fall in love with each other. But there's a forbidden love between a player and an official. And this is a song from 2009 from their Here's One I Knocked Out Earlier, rare and unreleased, though not anymore. You can get that on Bandcamp. And this is Female Referee.
I've been suffering from erection problems, but that soon was healed when I was playing Sunday League over Blackshots Field. I saw her on the football pitch, she was all in black. Her shirt was slightly baggy, but her shorts were up her crack. I had more shots than Frank Lampard in an attempt to turn her head, but like when he's in an England shirt, they all landed in Rose Ed. I hope that my firm tackle and my ball control would make me look a good acquisition, and I'll get to achieve my goal. Female referee, make your decision final, and please go out with me. I've been suffering from erection problems, but I think you hold the key. I if I dribbled round the box. My team was losing 11-0, but then I got a chance. I scored a toe poke from 3 yards and did a Roger Miller dance. My ethnic moves must have caught her eye, because at full time she asked me if I'd take her out for a lager and lime. We were getting on really well, it was all going alright, until I ran over a disabled kid when I jumped a yellow light. Female referee, it was just an error in judgment, don't finish with me. If you blow my whistle one more time, I promise not to pee. But I got a red card when I hit a in my old man's full Capri. I got a red card when I hit a in my old man's full Capri.
Friends of the show, Cunt and the Gang, with their song Female Referee. You can't help who you fall in love with, and it's all derailed by vehicular manslaughter. That is the song.
That's the song, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. Oh, Michael.
Thought we'd end with a little bit of fun there. But that is it for this week's show. Just before we go, thanks for joining us on the show this week, Har. Just before you go, let everyone know where they can find your stuff online and what you've got planned down at the She Believes Cup.
Well, I'm going to go there, and I will be on a hunt for some biscuits, so I'll see what they have down there. You can find my work on the internet. I'll have lots of stuff with Equalizer Soccer, and yeah. And
give her a follow, Hard Journalist on Twitter. Zach, any final thoughts from you this week?
You can find me on Twitter at Zachary M. Again, occasionally tweeting. And things are getting going more and more with what's going on with Vancouver FC of the Canadian Premier League in the Valley, playing out of Langley. Anyways, if you want to be involved, you can fvfanatics@gmail.com. Be in touch.
Do, because there's going to be a lot more news coming out, as we kind of touched on in part 3. Give us a follow on Twitter, AFTN Canada. See our videos, give us a like, subscribe, turn on notifications on YouTube, AFTN Canada on there as well. We'll be back with another show soon. Until then, thanks for listening. Take care. Mon the Caps. And come on, the Canadian Women's National Team. Stand your ground. Get what you deserve. Bye, everybody.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
AFTN.